You guys can have a seat. Whew, man, I love getting to worship. I really, really, really do. How y'all doing? Y'all doing all right? Yes? No? Wow, that's like the most lackluster response. Is anybody actually, was worship good for you, or are you just kind of numb to it? Is it? All right, cool, thanks. Thank you for the three. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? You cheer about everything else, football, all that stuff. So, Jesus is kind of a reason for that. But no, seriously, man, I'm so happy to be here with you guys. I'll say this just because it's really important to say, especially in times like this. If you don't already, go ahead and put your mask on. Just go ahead and, put that bad boy back on so we can continue to do what we're doing. But man, I'm excited for tonight. I'm really excited. I'm super glad that you're here. I'm really excited mainly because we haven't had the opportunity to do this a lot. We did this one time and then we didn't do it in October. So here we are in November getting to do it, and I'm really pumped to see you guys. And if we're being honest, it would be super easy for you. I think each and every one of you to kind of try to compare this year to another year. Or try to compare this year to last year, or try to compare what student ministry used to look like to what student ministry currently is. It'd be really easy for you, if we're being honest, for you to try to compare me to Ryan. But that just wouldn't be fair to you. That wouldn't be fair to me. That wouldn't be fair to us. I really think that comparison has this way of really, messing with our hearts in a way that's super unhealthy. Comparison really kills if there's a way. There's actually another guy who puts it this way. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. There's a guy by the name of President Teddy Roosevelt, and he's the 26th president of the United States, and he says it this way. He says, comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. So what does that mean? That means comparing ourselves or comparing one situation to another, or ourselves to somebody else, or just comparing this year to last year, or whatever you want to think about. It will rob you of joy. And that's exactly what we're going to have the opportunity to talk about throughout the next couple of weeks. We're going to talk about comparison, and we're talking about in this series that we're calling Like Me, where we just get to process through what comparison looks like in our lives, what it is, what it does, and honestly how we can get from under it. And so we're going to be talking about it, and we all have a tendency to do it. If we're being real, we all have a tendency to really compare ourselves to one another. All of you do it, I do it. It's just a thing that we do. I'll tell you this, a couple of weeks ago, me and my wife, we went on vacation. So we went to the beach and we hung out. We just hopped in the car, me, McKenna, Isaiah, we hopped in the truck and we headed our way toward the beach. Now, I really, really, really love the beach, but there's a particular area of the beach that I love the most. And if I'm being honest with you, I'm a little bougie. So anybody like nice things? You like nice things? Come on. Just one hand. Anybody generally like? Thank you. Okay, thank you. 2 hands, right? So I'm bougie. I don't mind it. I don't mind being called a little bougie. I just like to stay at nice places. And there's one particular place, we went to Seaside. There's one particular place in Seaside that I love. It's like a little slice of heaven. As far as I'm concerned, this is heaven. It's called Alice Beach. You ever been here before? Anybody like this? It does it not look like when I die, I want to see that. I just want to wake up to whatever this is back here because it looks amazing. There's another picture too. I love Alice Beach. It is the most beautiful place on earth. But here's the truth. I can't afford to stay in Alice Beach. I don't make enough money to actually stay in Alice Beach. And every time we try to make a decision about vacation, and every time we're trying to process through, hey, I really want to go to the beach, all I can ever have in my head is Alice. It's the thing. It's the standard for me. Nothing else can really compare to it. So while we were looking for places to stay, I was scrolling on Instagram, and first and foremost, that's how you get in trouble. So I was scrolling on Instagram, and I was like, man, I really can't get Alice Beach out of my head. And I'm scrolling on Instagram, and I see this guy right here. This guy's name is Chris. And Chris is a good buddy of mine. He's a pastor friend of mine. And if you want to put that on the screen, Chris is a pastor friend of mine. And he really is a fascinating person because Chris makes about the same amount as I do from what I know. He's a really good friend. And I remember him being at the beach, and I saw this picture, and it was just his shoes were off. He was chilling. He was just really calm. He had a drink in his hand. Everything was cool. And I started to look a little bit closer, and I was like, man, that's Alice Beach. I'm pretty sure he's staying at Alice Beach. I'm looking at this photo on Instagram, and all I can see is him at Alice Beach. And then I think to myself, I'm like, we make about the same amount. I'm confused as to how you can afford that and I can't. Like, I really am confused right now as how you can afford to stay at Alice Beach. And so I'm looking at this photo while my wife is trying to figure out places that we should go. And I keep, like, comparing the two. I'm like, hey, that place doesn't look like where he's at right now. Like, yes, that place looks cool, but it doesn't look like where he's at right now. And I keep thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I can't really afford this. And then I get in my head, I'm like, is there something wrong with me? Like, I wish I could afford to do what my friend was doing for his family. I wish I could afford to stay at Alice Beach, but I can't. And listen, the place that we actually chose to go was pretty nice. Like, I really enjoyed the stay and everything, but in my head, it still didn't compare to what I had saw. It didn't compare to what I saw my friend do. It didn't compare to what I saw on social media. It didn't compare to the life that I was currently living in, so I didn't like it as much. And so I ended up going to Florida, right? And I shoot my friend a message. Like, I sent him a meme or something ridiculous like that. And he sent me a text back, and he was like, yo, he was like, man, happy birthday to you. It was actually on my birthday that we're headed to the beach. And so he was like, man, happy birthday to you, man. He's like, what are y'all doing today? I was like, bro, we're headed to Rosemary. It's going to be super dope. I'm super excited to do that. And he was like, oh, yeah, man, we just left. And he's like, yeah, I saw that you were at the beach. And he was like, I was like, dude, quick question for you, man. Like, where did you stay in Alice Beach? Because I saw that picture. It looked super dope. Like, shoot me the address. I might try to, get in there or whatever. And I was like, where'd you stay? And he was like, oh, no, we didn't stay in Alice. He's like, we just took a picture there. I'm like, what? I spent all this time comparing myself to you and you being at Alice Beach and you didn't even go there. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay. Something's wrong with me. He's like, no, I stayed across the street from the hub, and we just went and took that photo at Alice Beach. And I was like, I took photos at Alice Beach, but I kept comparing myself to you. I compared the reality of my life to the highlight that I saw on his feed. I compared my worth to his posts, and he didn't even stay there. Comparison really does kill. Comparison is the thief of joy. And listen, if I know you like I think I know you, and I don't know you that much, but I can tell just a little bit from our conversations, you do this too. You compare yourself to other people, to other things, to other situations as well. If we're being honest, some of you are constantly comparing yourself to other people. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, oh man, he's stronger than me. Or, oh, she's prettier than me. Oh, he's a better gamer than I am. She has a better body than I do. They have more followers on Instagram and TikTok than I do. They're more popular than I am. Oh, her bikini pic gets more likes than mine do. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, you're like, man, I can't seem to stop comparing myself to other people. And it's when we compare ourselves to each other that it just begins to suck the joy out of our lives. Until we're just honestly like shells of ourselves, where we look really pretty and put together on the outside, but on the inside, we're just broken and bruised. We're hurt, and it all happens because of comparison. And I believe that God has something to say about it. And so if you have your phone or you want to pull it up, or it's going to be here on the screen, 2 Corinthians 10, verse 12. And let me give you a little context on this before we read it. Paul is one of the greatest teachers. Paul writes this letter, and he's one of the greatest teachers and followers of Jesus. And Paul has gone far and wide telling people about Jesus. Like, that's his job. He goes far and wide telling people about Jesus and establishing churches along the way. And then he writes a letter to the churches that he plants to basically like check in on them, to offer encouragement to them, and then also like give them some level of correction as well. And so Paul's letters to the church at Corinth, essentially what he's doing, he's addressing a few of the big issues that they have of the day. First of all, the church of Corinth, they're having issues with immorality, they're having issues with division, they're having issues with arrogance, they're having issues with comparison. And so Paul is writing to the church to basically help them understand. Now, when Paul writes his letters, he is boldly addressing some of these things, but they're not always well received. Like, some people really don't like when Paul writes these letters to them, and they respond poorly. And so the criticism of Paul is this, man. Essentially, they're like, listen, you're super bold when you write these letters. You're incredibly direct, and they seem a little forceful when you write these letters, but when we see you in person, you're timid. Your words aren't really that impressive. You're actually pretty unimpressive in person. And so they kind of like dissed Paul a little bit. So Paul starts this chapter with a ton of sarcasm, addressing some of that criticism, really just defending his ministry, but in a very sarcastic way. And honestly, you should go back and read it, 2 Corinthians 10, like the whole chapter. It is full of sarcasm, and it doesn't seem like that, but you should really read it because he's kind of coming at these dudes next. And so in this chapter, Paul begins to address some of the hypocrisy, some of like the self-importance or the arrogance, some of the comparison that's risen up in the Corinthian church. So here it is, 2 Corinthians 10:12, and it says this, it says, "Oh, don't worry. We wouldn't dare say that we are as wonderful as these other men who tell you how important they are. But they are only comparing themselves with each other, using themselves as the standard of measurement." How ignorant. Another translation actually says it this way. It says, when they compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. Here's the first point. If you just want to keep it in your mind or write it down, there is no wisdom in comparison. There is no wisdom in comparison. What Paul is essentially saying here is that you call me boastful. You call me bold, but I'm not bold enough to do some of the crazy, boastful stuff that you're doing. And then he really gets into this like spirit of comparison that's happening at the church at Corinth. He's like, listen, you think too highly of yourself. You really do. You think too highly of yourself. And I know that because you keep comparing yourself to other people just like you. You have made what you do or what they do the standard of what it means to be important. There's a ton of comparison happening here, and there is no wisdom in that. Listen, I want you to hear me. If I can encourage you with just a little bit today, and I'm going to say this, and it may not feel like a good thing, but it really is. You are not the standard of what is important. Your friends are not the standard of what is important. You do not make the standard of what is important, and your friends do not make the standard of what is important. Christ is important. Jesus is the standard. So that's who we have to look to. 1 Peter 2 tells us that Jesus is the example and we should follow in his footsteps. So if you're going to compare yourself to somebody, just compare yourself to Jesus. That's the best thing that you can do. That's the wisest thing that you can do. And honestly, that's what Paul is trying to get the church at Corinth to do. So there is no wisdom in comparison. Secondly, there is a wall for comparison. There is a wall for comparison. So the Bible, don't know if you knew this, but it's broken up into a bunch of different genres, right? So you've got poetry and you've got prophecy and all those genres. And then you've also got, the wisdom literature. So like it's a genre by itself. And the different books of the Bible fit into these genres. So the book of Proverbs actually fits into the Bible's wisdom literature. So if you ever find yourself like struggling to know what to do, or like you're just questioning yourself, or you need some wisdom in your life, Proverbs is a really good start for you. It's a really good place for you to start in. But Proverbs 4:23, it's going to be on the screen. It says this. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Okay, so imagine like you're like putting a wall up in your heart between you and comparison. You're putting a wall up in your heart between your heart and comparison, and you are constantly just trying to guard your heart. The Bible is saying guard your heart. Why? Because what we do almost always comes from what's in our hearts. And so we have the opportunity to protect them. We have to protect our hearts, and comparison is honestly one of the quickest ways to destroy it. Comparison is one of the quickest ways to actually destroy your hearts. And that's what Paul knows to be true about some of the people at Corinth. And so comparison is like destroying their hearts. It's really stealing their joy. And so there has to be a wall that we put up around our hearts to keep out comparison, not to keep out other people, but to really like keep out this spirit of comparison. So how do you put that wall up? How do you protect yourself from comparing yourself with other people? Great question. Guard your thoughts, you guard your tongue, and you guard your time. It's the best way that you can protect yourself, to put a wall between you and comparison. So first and foremost, guard your thoughts. What you allow in here will inevitably come out here. Like what you allow in your mind can easily like try to manifest itself out in the real world. So whenever you start to hear like lies in your head, here's what I need you to do. Tell yourself a different story. Whenever you start hearing the lies of the enemy in your head, tell yourself God's story. What does God say about you? So when you find yourself and you pick up your phone and you're on Instagram and you're scrolling over and over again and you see a picture of somebody that you feel like looks better than you, and the first thought that comes in your head is, I'm ugly. Reverse that. Say, no, wait. My Bible says, therefore, God says that I'm a masterpiece. I am beautifully and wonderfully made, so there's no way that that thing that came in my head could be true when God already says a different thing about me. If you're in school and you're walking down the hallway and you're just thinking to yourself, man, nobody really likes me, that's not true. First and foremost, God loves you, and he loves you so much that he sent his son to die for you. And guess what? We love you too. That's what this ministry is about, surrounding you in love. So when you begin to think those thoughts, when you begin to hear those lies in your head, just guard your thoughts. That will help you put a wall between your heart and comparison. Second way to put that wall up is to guard your tongue. Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. That's what the Bible says. So what is bubbling up in your heart will be on the tip of your tongue. Be super careful about what you say about yourself, because it's an indication of what's in your heart. We can just get like super real for a second. To all the young ladies in the room, maybe you're here and you're thinking to yourself, you're like, man, or maybe you've thought this before. Maybe you don't believe that you're beautiful. Maybe you're a leader and you don't believe that you're beautiful. You're struggling believing that truth that you really are a masterpiece. And so and here's how I know you do it, because you let that thing, like, you let it slip out of your mouth every once in a while with just that easy, like, oh my gosh, I look a mess today. Like, oh my gosh, I just really don't. Like, it's so much. I look like a mess. And it just slips out like every once in a while where you're just like, oh, I just really look like trash today. Oh my gosh, I just woke up. It's fine. Or whatever. And you're doing all this comparison with the girls at school and with the girls on TV and the other wives that you know for the leaders here. Maybe comparing yourself to the other leaders, comparing yourself on social media, and that comparison is causing you to really subtly, or for some of you not so subtly, talk down to yourself. So what is in your heart, what's in the depths of your heart has come out of your mouth, and you're just beginning to speak that over yourself, and you're beginning to believe it. But it's not true. You are the daughter of a king. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Guard your tongue. Dudes, you didn't get out of this either. To the dudes in the room, like, maybe some of you have wrapped your identity in the one thing that you do and not who you belong to. So maybe you only see yourself as the athlete, or maybe you only see yourself as the gamer, or if you're a leader, let's say you're a husband, you only see yourself as a provider, or you only see yourself as a worker at this company, or whatever the situation may be, and you've wrapped your identity in this one thing that you do, or you're just constantly comparing yourself to other people around you, to other guys around you. Please, please, please be careful placing labels on yourself that God didn't give you. Don't call yourself anything that God didn't give you. You are the son of a king. Third way to put that wall up between your heart and comparison is to guard your time. Guard your time. Listen, one of the best things that you can do to put a wall up between your heart and comparison is to take some time away from the thing that's taking most of your time. Because ultimately, the thing that's taking the most of your time is probably the source of where that spirit of comparison is coming from. Listen, I love social media. I really do. I love Instagram. I love TikTok. Like, I love posting funny videos. I love dancing in the car, all of that stuff. I'm on social media every single day. But even for me, like, it gets to be too much. I compare myself all the time. I compare myself to another pastor. I compare myself to other dads. I compare myself to other husbands all the time. And so here's what I do. Here's what I do personally to make sure that I'm taking some time away from the thing that takes the most of my time. I get off social media 1 day a week, 1 week a month, and 1 month a year. That's what I do. I get off social media 1 day a week, 1 week a month, and 1 month a year. And that just helps me keep healthy boundaries and lessens my opportunity to compare. And listen, I'm not asking you to do that. I'm not asking you to do that because that might seem a little extreme for you, and I get it. Like, you like your phone, you like your friends, you want to DM them, you want to be on Snapchat. I completely understand that. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to take a break. Take a break from whatever that thing is that is taking most of your time, whether it's social media, whether it's gaming, whether it's just being online in general, whether it's being on your cell phone. Maybe it's just certain people that you need to take a break from as well. I want you to take a break from insert whatever that thing is here for 1 day this week. That's all. Take a break from social media for 1 day this week and just take some time Take some time and rest. And since we say that comparison is the thief of joy, then replace that time that you would have spent comparing yourself to other people with something that actually brings you joy. Just take a day off. Take a day off from social media, a day off from gaming or whatever the situation may be, and replace it with something that actually brings you joy and happiness. Go to the mall, hang out with your friends, eat some food, watch something on television. I don't know. Watch The Bachelor. Reruns of it. I don't know what you watch, but replace it with something that actually brings you joy. Guard your thoughts, guard your tongue, and guard your time. This is you protecting your heart from the spirit of comparison. Okay, so we've learned that there is no wisdom in comparison. We've also learned that there is a wall for comparison, and the best way to put that wall between your heart and comparison is to guard your thoughts, guard your tongue, and guard your time. But thirdly, you might be thinking to yourself, there's no way I can actually stop doing this. It's too easy. Right now, as you're talking, I'm comparing myself to other people in the room. I'm trying to figure out, did I worship? Did they worship as hard as I did? Or you might be having some of those thoughts of comparison when you walked in. I was man, our shoes are a little nicer than mine are. Our clothes, his clothes are a little nicer than mine are. There is a way out of comparison. You do not have to live to that for the rest of your life. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The way out of comparison is Jesus. The way out of comparison is the way. Listen, Jesus didn't die so you would have to keep comparing yourself to other people on TikTok or social media. Jesus did not die so you could obsess over how many more followers that somebody has than you do. Jesus died so you could be set free from the spirit of comparison, so you would know exactly what you were worth, so you would never question your worth again because you were worth Jesus' life. Each and every one of you, he died for. So you would never have to wonder what your worth is. And that's what Paul wants the church at Corinth to understand. There's no need for you to boast. There's no need for you to be arrogant. There's no need for you to compare. There's no need for me to compare myself to you because we don't determine our worth. Jesus determines our worth, and he says that you were worth dying for. Listen, don't you dare compare your worth to somebody else's post. You're worth more than that. You're worth more than the 36 likes that they get on their Instagram post. You're worth more. You were worth Jesus' life. There is a way out of comparison, and it's Jesus. Trust him. Trust his words. Trust his love for you. Just imagine a life that we could live a life where every day you could walk in confidence about who you are. Imagine how you could begin to live a life where you would wake up in the morning and you would stare yourself in the face in the mirror and you wouldn't hate yourself. It's possible for you to live a life where you could wake up every day, walk into school confident in who God has created you to be. Jesus has afforded you the opportunity to be free from the spirit of comparison. So stop letting something that you've been freed from steal your joy. Stop letting comparison steal your joy. Jesus died for you to have a life where you are absolutely in love with him and you're in love with yourself too. So you don't have to compare yourself to anybody else. That's the life that Jesus died for you to have. Jesus wants you to live a life without comparison so you can live a life that can't be compared. So that when other people see you, they would see just how joyful you are. That you would be a light, you would be a witness to other people around you, that people would see you and they would see Jesus. That's the life he died for you to have. And today, I truly believe that we can walk in that freedom. You can leave here and be a different person. And so here's what we're going to do, and it's going to be a little uncomfortable for you. If you're in this room and you would just say, you know what? I'm struggling with comparison. I'm really dealing with this right now. If you're a leader, if you're a student, if you're in the back, working sound, and you're saying man, I'm struggling with comparison. Here's what I ask you to do. If you could just stand. I know that's wildly uncomfortable because you're worried about what all your friends think about you. You might be worried about the things that they're thinking, but I'm asking you to take a step out on faith. And listen, we're not going to leave you there alone. If you're staying in your heart, if you feel that in your heart, and you're saying, man, I'm struggling with comparison, it's okay. You can stand, and we're going to have people surround you, and we're going to have people pray for you. And we're not going to put our hands on each other because, listen, COVID, you know what I'm saying. But just extend a hand and just pray for them. We're going to surround them, and we're going to pray for them. So if that's you and you're saying, man, I'm struggling with comparison, feel free to stand. It's okay. It really is. The band can come up. You guys can, while they're doing that. If you're saying, man, I really am, in my heart right now, I am struggling with comparing myself to other people. You see these people standing up next to you. Hey, surround them. If you're around somebody that is standing up, just begin to, form a little circle around them. Go ahead and do that now. And just begin to pray for them. Just begin to pray for them, pray for their peace. Just take this time to just seek the Lord on their behalf. Listen, some of you think it's my job to come up here and preach and pray for you and do all these things. No, that's your responsibility. The beautiful thing is that this is what community looks like, is that when there's people struggling with something, we get the opportunity to come alongside them and just pray for them. And I want you to know that if any one of you who didn't stand up was ever in a position where you needed more of God, you didn't feel loved, you didn't feel cared for, we would be right there ready to hold your arms up and tell you that God loves you and we love you too. So just take some time, take a few minutes and just pray over the people who said they're struggling with comparison. And when you finish, I'll pray over all of you. Because there may be some of you who didn't stand up, and that's okay, but now we're all standing. And in some form or fashion, we have all struggled with comparing ourselves to other people. And so you all just take that time to pray, and we'll come back and we'll pray and begin to worship again.